Hello, dear friends. There are so many spiritual messages that I cannot pass over them without taking the best of each one, in my opinion. To make a summary and a synthesis as the one I offer in this article, because the original messages are too long. They all agree that the time of the direct divine intervention that we have waited so long for is approaching, without stopping doing our work, because both things are compatible. Opinion piece. The blessing is near. It's all part of the divine plan. A planetary shift has occurred. The new era is already upon us. Summary of several messages from heaven. There is nothing to be afraid except fear. This is not a rescue, but an awakening. We could be only weeks away. Outside help is not incompatible with inner work. Everything will happen at the best time to create optimal results. Let's start. A planetary shift has occurred when a cleansing of sorts occurred due to the high level of energy that was coming in, according to Mrs. Blossom Gottchild. We are aware that many things appear to be bleak at this time of the planet. However, this is not so. Changes of great proportion and also much cleansing are taking place. There are many from off-planet who are assisting in this project, and timing is critical. All what is occurring is part of the divine plan, as you know. The shift from darkness to glory is always working toward its ultimate goal. Many during the last year decided to feel more of their truth. Many awakened to their truth from a long and deep sleep. I am doing so. There came with it an increase of light. Much strength for awakened souls is now capable not only of anchoring light, but also sending out light on a much larger scale. This force will continue to be felt and absorbed. It was not just one day affair, so to speak. Now is the time when the action is taking place on many levels. We could call it a turnaround, because the general public has had enough of the lies and deception and is catching the call from within to do something about it. There is an awakening of inner strength moving within souls that would normally remain silent in a corner. There is a call for human rights to be heard and acted upon. New Age. The New Age is already upon us. There is much more to unfold. Remember that the planet has just entered the aquarium age. You could say that what is to come is still in its infant stage. Visualize a loving, peaceful, prosperous, abundant and high-frequency planet. Keep joy in your heart and trust in this beautiful divine plan for planet Earth. There is absolutely nothing to fear except fear itself. There will come a time on your planet when fear will be unknown. Fear doesn't exist in the higher dimensions. We would like to remind you that you all came into this incarnation with soul contracts. It is a key time to fulfill those contracts to help your brothers and sisters as you move forward. Benefits of dreaming. Sleep is a glorious experience of expansion, of dying into the ego and expanding into your greater self. As you sleep, your consciousness temporarily ceases to identify with the body and mind. You re-emerge into a greater awareness and understanding of yourself as soul. You surrender to love. That's why, when your mind is not in the way, deep healing can take place while you sleep. That's why you cannot go to bed with questions and wake up with answers. You can't go. That's why you feel refreshed after a good night's sleep. This is also the reason why When you don't sleep well, it's important to find a way to temporarily disconnect your mind and simply be as you are in your sleep or restful states. When you are free of thoughts and worries, that you return to the natural state of your soul. You become open to receive love, love, trust, relax, and surrender to the perfection of life. Whenever you can turn off your mind, quiet the thoughts, and simply surrender to love, you open yourself to a miraculous flow that is a constant and ever-present flow of energy from Source, a love that is always trying to help and assist you. Divine intervention. We have had much influence with your governments. These illuminated leaders know who we are. We simply came in and said, "We are here. You know that the future of this planet doesn't include your evil. So now this is what you must do." Close dots. It was easy for your president to come in and show all the evidence he had about these so-called leaders because we paved the way for him to do so. There are others who are visiting governments throughout their ships and taking to government leaders. Did you know that every country on earth has signed on to Gisara's plan? This was also done by us. It was we who sold it, so to speak, to your world leaders. Excuse me. We are the representatives who are bringing God back to your planet. We had connected with those few so long ago who wished to do the same on Earth. We of the universe are the overseers of what is happening on planet Earth at this time. To dismiss our contribution is half the story. You are the ones who pray. We are the ones who make your prayers come true. Many of you still give your power to the dark ones. We are talking to both sides and have arranged for your wealth to comply with Gisara. The quantum financial system is already running along the trust system, which will collapse at some point. The fiat system, along the fiat system. Who do you think kept it from collapsing a couple of weeks ago? Your white hats are working alongside us. Some of them are also starseeds and lightworkers, and they are aware of their origins. They work with us because we have been in contact with them for a long time. The light beings who have come to this earth are very much involved in what is happening now, advising, protecting, and adjudicating agreements, warning about taking wrong action. We have warned many of them what will happen to them if they aligned with the Maya any longer. They are turning now. You see this. They are turning toward the light. Why? It's our influence. There are many on Earth who have had visitations from other beings and continue to do so now. Mind control. Just as you are being mind controlled to believe the narrative, we of the light can remove that mind control so that you can awaken. We tend to do it locally to achieve localized results. Unfortunately, the Earthling is basically a powerless, apathetic being who has allowed himself to be controlled. This is due to my control. The feeling that nothing can be done to help themselves is so common that there were people we worked with specifically, usually lightworkers, whom we coached to step up and take action. Phil Schneider was one of them. By the way, he paid the ultimate price for his actions, but he left his imprint on their minds. He started the movement. He told people to stand up for themselves, and eventually people came to listen to his lectures because they were more awake than average. Thus now we achieved results on a physical level. As for the timing of events, first of all, everything will happen at the best time to create optimal results. As for the events that you think will happen, they will not happen in the expected way. Mr. T will resume his presidency, but not in the expected way. The fact that little has happened to date in the expected way attests to this. There have been no food shortages, martial law, internet blackouts, etc. Only in small localized cases, and this was easier to handle. Take each way as it comes and give thanks for the wonders of you see before you. Your world is changing for the better. It is not about rescuing you. It is not about victimizing you. It is not about doing things for you. It is about empowering you and waking you up. The stakes are high. At last, events seem to have reached a point where a major event seems possible, which could be only weeks away, but the timing absolutely must be right as the stakes are high, according to Mike Kinsey. Certainly, the timing will not be broadcast in advance, as it would give the Dark Ones warning of a long-established plan to hold their supporters accountable for their crimes against humankind. Such an action would be the precursor to many changes to restore freedom and the right to live a peaceful life without fear or threat of violence. For too long, humankind has been controlled and continually engaged in wars over threats of war, which have been instigated by those whose agenda was total control of the world and a major reduction in population. Out of the chaos will come some massive changes, all for the better, although it may take some time before you see a plan evident in them. Your freedom will be returned to you to safely release all that is unsuitable for the new age, which promises many things that will ensure a happy and acceptable existence. Naturally, the inequality of life that exists at present will gradually be changed, so that all we enjoy a happy life in the prosperous time ahead. We tell you these things so that you will know that your present suffering and the poverty that many experiencing will end. Understand that all souls are equal and that their role on earth is to gain the experience they need to evolve to a spiritual level, while the frequencies are much higher, and where the negatives and their energies cannot exist. Critical time. The waiting period continues as matters begin to come to a head, and surely most of you will be surprised when you realize what has been going on behind the scenes. We expect some major announcements in the very near future that will explain what has been going on lately without your knowledge, although some of you have suspected what is behind all the activity. This present period, when most people are homebound or very limited in their movements, is an ideal time for moves to be made to restrict or stop the Dark Ones from escaping justice. There are moves to take them into custody and face trial for their crimes against humankind. However, it would be not the first time that proposals for such actions have been delayed, but it is inevitable, and the plans are so far advanced that there is no doubt that they will go ahead very soon. After many years of planning, the last day of the Dark Ones are approaching, but no doubt, as is their nature, they will fight to the bitter end. They are not known for coming quietly, and to say the least, expect many scuffles of words. As we have mentioned, this is along as the current conditions are ideal for making arrests and giving them the little chance to escape. As you can imagine, it will be a mammoth task to carry out, but in numbers the forces of light are in a superior position. It is unlikely that there will be another opportunity such as the present one. So you can be assured that consideration is being given to making the most of it. So do not be surprised if action is started unexpectedly. All who are on the light can help future events and be of the utmost help by thinking positively and sending light and love to those souls who are on the front line and who are acting in the name of peace and justice. Clearly, there are great risks to life and limb when confrontation occurs, but be assured that they receive love and protection. Those of the light act according to the universal rules of engagement, while the dark ones will use every dirty trick they know to avoid arrest. However, it will be in vain, as the odds are now stacked against them, as there are far superior forces that are on the side of the light. Short news. Biden administration acknowledges surge of immigrants at border. As the surge of illegal immigrants at the US-Mexico border remain at historic levels, the Biden administration acknowledged that it is a big problem, saying it is currently studying whether or not to add additional facilities for unaccompanied minors. Up to 3,000 migrant children to be housed in Dallas Convention Center. The Biden administration reportedly plans to use Dallas Convention Center to house up to 3,000 migrant teens, alleviating overcrowding in the detention centers as open border policies spur a surge in illegal immigration. New York Times staff says they are afraid to speak freely. The New York Times recently conducted an internal survey that found that nearly half of all employees feel muzzled in terms of speaking their minds because of an oppressive corporate culture of extreme political bias. Military news. Air Force prepares for electromagnetic pulse attack. The Air Force took the first steps to protect one of its Texas bases against an electromagnetic pulse attack. Officials at Joint Base San Antonio in Lackland issued a request for bids to inspect a facility called the Petroleum Oil and Lubrication Complex. Life Science reported. The inspection is intended to identify any equipment that may be vulnerable to an EMP attack. According to the request, it will be done prior to a more advanced vulnerability survey, after which officials will upgrade the equipment. U.S. Air Force plans to test unusual hypersonic weapon. The AGM-183 missile could be useful for destroying high-value time-sensitive targets, the U.S. Army said. In the coming days, the Air Force is preparing to launch a B-52H bomber with a missile which will be launched at unprecedented speed. Moroccan military maneuvers in Canary Islands airspace. A joint US and Moroccan military operation debated and crossed Spanish territory without warning, an unusual practice which the Sahrawis considered as propaganda. NATO changes its tune. The head of the US-led bloc has told European Union officials that its members face no imminent military threat from Russia or China. There is no imminent threat of a military attack by Russia or China against any NATO member state, but the mere existence of the bloc is the main reason for the situation. Its Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has told the European Union. Stoltenberg made this statement somewhat unusual given NATO's typically thought rhetoric against Russia. During a speech to the European Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee on Monday. Economy. Europe struggles to defend itself against an armed war. The Biden administration talks of renewed cooperation with the European Union and suspends tariffs stemming from a long-standing dispute between Airbus and Boeing. However, the US willingness to punish European allies and impose sanctions on them for the sake of its foreign policy goals remains real, writes the New York Times. Bitcoin retreats after touching high near $62,000. Bitcoin was consolidating about $60,000 on Monday, following the all-time high to hit over the weekend in a market that expects concerns about inflation and US stimulus spending to boost it further. Oil field with at least 600 million barrels of crude discovered in Mexico. The state company Petróleos Mexicanos Pemex discovered a large new oil field in the state of Tabasco, in the south of the country. We discovered a very large oil field in Tabasco, commented Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador on March 12th. High-tech textile breakthrough in portable washable electronic displays. Chinese scientists have unveiled next-generation wearable technology in the form of a flexible, breathable electronic fabric that serves as a washable, portable, interactive display with diverse applications from telecommunications to medicine. This intricate but flexible framework could form the basis for smart clothing to accompany smartphones and smartwatches. Bill Gates just got a $3.5 billion or $3.5 billion bailout from the stimulus package. Hidden inside the Democrats' American bailout plan is a multi-billion-dollar donation to Bill Gates. While tens of millions of citizens face job loss and eviction, the co-founder of Microsoft is being given a massive cash infusion for his so-called global fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria. Astronautics. The International Space Station enters its golden age with SpaceX. After more than 20 years of uninterrupted human presence on board, the International Space Station is operating at full capacity with a few years still ahead of it, thanks in particular to the return of flights from the US. 8 people wanted to accompany a billionaire to the moon. Japanese billionaire Yusaku Maezawa is inviting everyone to travel with him to the moon aboard the spacecraft being developed by Elon Musk's SpaceX in what will be the first private lunar expedition in history in 2023. The billionaire will bear the expenses. Astronomers find supermassive black hole moving strangely. A team of astronomers has detected a supermassive black hole that is moving in an unusual way in deep space, but they are not entirely sure for the reason for its behavior. Hundreds of dolphins and whales end up dead around the world. Hundreds of dolphins and whales are turning up dead recently off different coasts about the world in what could be an ominous sign of the times. Experts are still investigating the cause of death, but there is speculation that intense solar activity and the awakening of the Earth's magnetic field probably contributed to the deaths, although it is also true that the sonar from submarines burst their eardrums. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends, and be happy.